Son of Seafoam by CaffeinatedFlumadiddle. Chapter 2. Quests were not fun. Quick rundown for anyone who wanted Percy's past week of horrors. 1. Their bus blew up after 3 old ladies tried to murder them. 2. Percy killed Medusa, who had a weird thing about his eyes. Luckily, he tried to subtly play it off as an Aphrodite thing. I don't know, Annabeth. People always talk about my eyes. One lady told me I had her dead husband's eyes. The other guy thought I was his girlfriend's brother because of it. I really don't know. 3. Echidna and her evil chimera were a thing. Annabeth and Grover still don't know how he survived that, considering he jumped off a very high building into the water below. He said he prayed, which was true, but quite frankly, he didn't know who answered his prayers. Well, okay, maybe he had some idea. As he sat up in the Mississippi River, he saw various fish swimming around, along with a startling amount of trash. Among that was a man who looked like he was casually taking a nap. "Hello?" he asked, a little alarmed to find he could speak, above all of the above. Maybe he was dead. Typical. He got up to where the man was lounging back with a hat over his eyes. Percy tilted his head. Was he dead? Dead people floated in the water, right? Or did they? He wasn't sure. Percy wrinkled his nose. Sir? He tried. The man stirred. Percy jumped. He hadn't been expecting that for some reason. Cursing an impressive amount for a 12-year-old, he bounced back just in time for the man to remove the hat from his face. Percy blanked. It was him. Sort of, maybe. Look, the guy looked an awful lot like him, from the windswept black hair, green eyes, and subtle look of rebellion branded into his features. When he saw Percy, he sat up, pointing a finger directly at Percy's face. His heart stopped. "I'm fairly certain your mother told you not to draw attention to yourself," he said flatly. Percy blinked. This was absolutely true. However, he wasn't sure why this man at the bottom of the river knew that. "So what do? You send the gods a box with Medusa's head in it? Why?" he asked. A solid question. The truth was that Percy was a little frustrated with these gods who apparently ruled over them. He was trying to get back Zeus's stupid lightning bolt while hiding his identity to maybe get another goddess to claim him, so he wouldn't get murdered. Forgive him for being short-tempered. It seemed foolish that not one of those gods could at least zap them to LA. Like, look, getting into the underworld? Sure, he could do that, but the road trip seemed unnecessary. "Who are you?" Percy asked instead. He already knew the answer, deep down. The man tilted his head. "You look like me," he noted slowly. The man's lips thinned. "An unfortunate stroke of luck," he said. Percy raised his eyebrows. "That was a little rude." A small laugh sat between them as the man's face broke from its stern demeanor. "I only meant that I won't be able to appear as I normally do for a while," he said. He sighed. "Gods can appear however they want, but people might get suspicious if they see me like this next to you." Percy nodded. He looked around. They were in water, not the sky, not the underworld. It left him with little doubt on who this was. "You're my father, aren't you?" he asked, and then looked down. Poseidon. It had been the first he had even said the name out loud. It was something that was either very obvious or that he just knew deep down. Possibly both. A trident appeared in the god's hand, and Percy knew he had his answer. That was it then. He was a Katara, a big freak child, an illegal creation who was destined to be hunted down like an animal for sport. If someone had told him even 3 months ago that he would meet his dad at the bottom of the river, then he would have assumed that the mafia was involved. You know, that might not be to your face. Maybe the Olympians were like a divine mafia. Poseidon stood up, looking down at him with an eerie amount of intensity. Percy didn't look away. "It is risky for us to spend time alone together," he said slowly, and gestured around them. "Perseus, what are you doing? Returning my brother's bolt will not lessen his ire for learning you exist." "I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it to be claimed." To claim you would mean signing your death warrant, Poseidon interrupted tersely. Something you already know. I'm not looking to be claimed by you, Percy cut in. Poseidon paused. If I stay unclaimed, people will be suspicious. Grover said unclaimed kids are usually kids of minor gods, but I'm clearly not the child of a minor god. That means I need to be claimed by someone else before it's clear why I'm not being claimed at all, he explained. Poseidon stared at him, feeling strangely vulnerable. Percy rubbed the back of his neck. I figured since everyone says that the gods have so many kids, I can trick one. Trick one, Poseidon repeated. Percy felt his shoulders slump. It was a stupid idea. What was he supposed to do, though? And you've chosen Aphrodite? He asked, nodding to the bracelet on Percy's wrist. He glanced down. Well, that's kind of just how the dominoes fell, he admitted. Poseidon nodded. But, I mean, He tried, and then reminded himself he was talking to a god, his father. He bowed his head. I don't know what I'm doing, he admitted, quietly. Silence. You're doing well, Perseus, came a quiet response. Percy glanced up to see Poseidon staring at him with unreadable eyes. Percy swallowed back his own judgments. He didn't really know what to make of this random god who condemned him to this life of confusion and fear, who hadn't even shown up before he went to the god's awful camp, who let his mother die. The gods are all watching you, Aphrodite included. You may pull this off, he said slowly. You have certain attributes of her, but also many differences. You need to be prepared for that, he said. Yeah. Percy had been reading the book Selena had given him. Aphrodite was truly a terrifying goddess. He didn't understand her in the slightest, but he was really, really, really trying. I think I know someone who could help you, Poseidon said suddenly. She usually resides on the East Coast, but I can send her here, he said slowly. Percy looked up at him. Really? Poseidon twirled his trident between his fingers thoughtfully. However, she is the only god you can trust with the truth. Do you understand me? In fact, the only one at all you can trust, he said firmly. Percy frowned. Selena already knew. Grover probably did too. Still, he didn't argue. Who is it? He asked. Poseidon sighed and reached out, almost as if to touch him, but thought better of it. You will know when you meet her, and be careful, Perseus. You have not chosen easy company. Athena's girl will not be easily deceived, he warned, looking around at the empty river. And try not to jump off of any more buildings. I can only intervene so much. Percy narrowed his eyes. I'll resist the urge, he said, before realizing that probably wasn't the best response. Poseidon blinked at him, looking momentarily taken aback before shaking his head. Sorry, Percy tacked on quickly, and winced. Sir, he added. Aphrodite, he asked, sounding vaguely amused. It'll be interesting to see how you do. And just like that, he was gone. It was a rather rude way to end the conversation, but whatever. Percy looked around the river, a little miffed as he marched his way back towards his friends and, once again, lied to them before refocusing back on the quest at hand, which included the following not-so-fun bits. 4. Ares appeared and asked them to get his shield. Ugh, they did it, but seriously? At what cost? The cost was looking like idiots on Olympian television. 5. They stayed at a really awesome hotel, which was, surprise, surprise, evil. It was actually during this lovely stay at the evil hotel that Poseidon's visitor found Percy. Annabeth and Grover had gone off with the platinum memberships to tackle the arcade when a hand touched Percy's shoulder. He tensed. Something about this place had already given him the creeps, but he couldn't quite pinpoint it. When he turned, he fully expected a monster. Instead, he saw, well, he wasn't sure who she was, only that he was momentarily stunned into silence at the sight of her. It was a woman. No, goddess. Definitely a goddess. A goddess with curly black hair that was worn like a cloud around her head, and skin with blue markings that glowed blue. Her eyes also shone an intense shade of vibrant blue, before dimming into a softer green, much like his own. Perseus Jackson, she greeted, and stepped back. Percy blinked a few times. At his confusion, she smiled. Sit. Percy sat. Who are you? He asked cautiously. The woman walked over to close the door of their suite, locking it with a sharp click. That set off some warning bells, but Percy didn't stop her as she walked back towards him, dress shimmering into a simple pair of those dress pant thingies. You know, the ones that were like a dress, but instead of it attaching to a skirt, it was shorts? Kind of like overalls? A pumper? Romper? Maybe. He really wasn't sure. Your sister, the woman said, and tilted her head as she sat down at the counter next to him. One way or another, she said, with a subtle smirk. Percy blinked. My name is Rhode, daughter of Poseidon and Aphrodite. She smiled coyly at him as she placed interlaced fingers under her chin. I hear we are of a similar breed, she drawled out. Percy sat up. Wait. Poseidon and Aphrodite? He asked. Rhode smiled. So, do you know who I am? Sure, Poseidon said to trust her, but also, he wasn't revealing anything unless he had to. Rhode scoffed before standing up and walking into the kitchen. With a wave of her hand, the entire place was stocked with food. Wordlessly, she handed him a plate of fruit. You should eat, she told him. You and I have some work to do while your friends are distracted. They'll be back in a few hours. Oh, not in this hotel, they won't, she said. Percy blinked. What? This is the Lotus Hotel. Do you remember your mythology to guess what that means? Percy's blood went cold. Immediately, he stood up. No, sit down. You can get them after we're done, she said. Percy glanced at her warily. Look, you're a child of the ocean. So is my mother. But that won't account for much if you don't know how to play into her abilities. What are you talking about? Your powers, Rhodes said. I'm here to teach you how to use your powers, Perseus. You aren't going to convince everyone you're Aphrodite's son by starting earthquakes and tidal waves, she said. Nor will our father let you. I'm guessing he's already binding your power as it is, she said. Percy stiffened. That was him? Of course that had been him. Ugh. Percy wished that clicked for him earlier. He hated that feeling of pressure closing around him, like a straitjacket, keeping him in place. Rhode hummed and took a slice of pineapple and bit into it. I don't have any Aphrodite powers, he said wearily. Rhode raised an eyebrow. What? I think you can pull off a few things. You're pretty powerful. I can feel it from here, she said casually. You know what sort of creatures reside in the ocean? She asked. Percy shrugged. Whales, dolphins, fish? Sirens, Rhode said, before Percy could throw out one of his more sarcastic answers. Do you see where I'm going with this? Maybe spell it out for me? Rhode looked at him for a moment and then sighed. Some Aphrodite kids can charm speak. You might be able to use your siren voice, she said. Percy blinked. Is what? If you're in a body of water, your voice can lure people towards you. You can even convince them to do things they normally wouldn't do. Pretty similar to charm speak, she said, twirling a piece of hair around her finger. Some Aphrodite kids can look deep within people to see their desires. You might be able to do something similar if you see their reflections in the water, she said. Percy bit his lip. That sounded above his pay grade. Some of my mother's children can alter perceptions, perhaps with a good dose of sea mist. So can you. Bird smiled. It's like with mortal magicians. We have to learn sleight of hand. Perhaps we can throw a few water-themed ones as well. She does have plenty of ties with it, she mused. Percy shook his head. You think I can do any of that? He asked. Though his mind thought back to the Aries kids in the river. How they had all listened instantly when he had spoken in the water, but ignored him the second he was out of it. Percy took a long breath. You can teach me? He asked. Rhode's eyes glimmered. I can try, she said, and plopped a grape in her mouth. The rest just depends on how badly you want to live. I think a reasonable amount, Percy said, tapping his finger on the counter between them. But why are you helping me? Poseidon was one thing. A road? Maybe. If gods wanted Big Three kids dead, well, some probably did. It was just hard to read who wanted what in all of this. Road's eyes shifted again to the bright blue, a luminescent light within the dimly lit suite. Because in the last 10 years I have had over 30 prayers, she said with a shrug. Percy frowned. Children begging me to claim them. Me, a goddess that nobody knows, nobody remembers. So minor that if it weren't for America's Rhode Island, then I would have surely faded long ago, she mused. Children have somehow found my name and begged me to claim them, just because they ran out of names to pray to, because nobody else answered their prayers, she said, voice almost like a song, a sad, tragic song. I can't even help them. Most of them are dead now, killed by your campers because they were unclaimed for a smidge too long, or given to the gods, she said, and looked down at her hands for a couple of moments. But I can help you, she finally said. Maybe you can be worth 30 unanswered prayers, she said, giving a sad smile. Percy wasn't sure he was even worth one. Why are they so afraid of us? He asked, not even sure who the us was in the situation. There was no us, only him. Still, it comforted him to think there were maybe others out there. We're just kids. We haven't done anything wrong. Rhoda pursed her lips. The war, she said, and shook her head, brows coming together. You know, they never figured out exactly what happened, she told him thoughtfully. For a while, we all thought the big three were in a fight. That's how wars usually start, she said, and then shook her head. It wasn't them, though. It was all their kids. Zeus was said to be horrified. He tried to intervene, which is saying something because he hates gods intervening in human affairs. But he tried. The fighting just got worse. Nobody knew what started it. There was just a river of blood. Hundreds executed, tortured, hunted. The gods finally had to step in and kill them all. Percy stared. What? But they had to have had a reason, Percy said. Nobody would just start a war like that. I couldn't tell you, Rhoda said. The prophecy came shortly after that, and the gods decided just to ban them altogether. Nobody ever forgot what they did. It was truly awful, she said with a shudder. If you saw the carnage those demigods caused, you may understand a bit better. For a moment, Percy felt the world around him flicker. When he looked around, he was in a deserted town, bodies strewn casually about, with smoke rising. In the distance were shouts and cries as one boy lurched into the air with his hand filled with lightning as a girl slammed her hand to the ground, shaking the already torn town even more apart. The hotel melted back into place before the two could collide. Katara's had always been trouble, Rude shrugged, but never quite like that. Percy stared. He didn't know what to say. Even in that brief clip, he had felt the fear and raw power that left him empty and cold. Rhoda brightened and said, But never mind that. We should get started on seeing where you're at with your powers. She rattled off as if Percy's world wasn't just rocked. Was he like that? Well, obviously not now, but could he be like that? Just start massacring people without a second thought? His stomach twisted. He suddenly had an understanding of some of the fear surrounding Big Three kids. Were they just walking bombs? Normal one moment and triggered to kill the next? That's what people seem to think. Maybe there was some truth to it if so many people believed them. No, no, they just didn't get a chance to explain themselves. Percy didn't have all the facts. He couldn't think like that. He was a good person. He was a good person. A person. Not a Katara or a monster or a demigod or anything else. He was 12 and had the best mom in the world and would figure out a way to pass 7th grade next year. First, though, he would return the stupid bolt to Zeus and get himself claimed. Taking a long breath, he looked up at Rode and nodded. Where do we start? How long were we there? No. Annabeth said as she raced out of the hotel, hands practically shaking as she yanked at a newspaper. Percy stayed quiet. He already knew the answer, but tried to look just as shocked as Annabeth rattled off the dates. 5 days? He demanded, ignoring Grover's eyes on him. How could time have gone by that fast? He asked, as if he hadn't just spent the past 5 days training while the other two were glued to video games. He felt pretty confident he could still get the bolt back in the remaining day they had. Or at least Rode had said he'd be able to. They were about to put that to the test. Annabeth continued her panic, summoning a cab as Percy silently mulled over the week. Rode had told him she would try to get Aphrodite down here so he could convince her himself. If he played it smart, silently, he pulled out the water bottle she had also given him. A parting gift, as it were. His powers weren't perfect, but they were a good start for now, if he could figure out how to use them right. He glanced at where Annabeth was arguing with where a cab driver had pulled up. She looked like she was about to offer him one of their latest casino cards. Hey, Percy said, deciding to put Rode's training to the test. Subtly, he poured some water over his head and grinned at Grover. Nevada is ridiculously hot, huh? He asked. Grover tilted his head at him as Percy slid beside Annabeth, leaning against the car door with a wide smile. Hi, he said, focusing on the water rolling down his back and dripping down his head. He felt a slight buzzing sink from the droplets into his skin. Rode was right. Salt water was the best. Rode was right. Salt water was better. He was grateful she had the foresight to make sure he was well stocked with the stuff. He would just need to keep it away from the other two. We really need to get to Los Angeles as fast as possible. Would you mind giving us a lift? He asked, voice coming out soft and pleading. The cab driver blinked. We're just kids and don't have any money, but I know you would want to help us out, right? The man blinked a few times. He said, looking unsure. I don't know if I should, he frowned. Please, he tried, putting a little more force into his words. Ugh, he needed more water. Okay, the man said immediately, but just you. No, Percy argued. All 3 of us. You wouldn't want 2 kids stranded alone, right? Maybe I should call the police to get you guys. You want to take us there, Percy said, feeling a shred of panic rise. This had been dumb to try out for the first time in the middle of the desert. He and Rode had practiced in a pool somewhere in the hotel on random strangers who were already mentally incapacitated. The man blinked again, uncertainty in his eyes. Percy could feel the water already evaporating off his skin. There might be a reward for you, he added. All right. The driver finally relented and unlocked the door. Percy let out a long breath of relief, and turned to find Annabeth staring at him. I'm not sure how long that will work, he muttered to her, as he slid into the cab. She slowly followed him. Have you done that before? A couple times, Percy said, which wasn't quite a lie. He'd done it on the Aries kids. I figured it must be a God thing. He shrugged and then feigned a frown. Can't you do it? He asked. Poseidon had been right, after all. Annabeth wasn't someone who would buy into this whole thing easily. He would have to be extra on guard with her. Annabeth only shook her head and then went back to whatever book she had brought with them. What are you doing? She asked about an hour later as Percy tried valiantly to avoid poking his own eye out. The taxi guy was still driving, so that was probably a good sign. Percy wasn't sure what to do if he had to convince him again. He glanced over at Annabeth. Putting on eyeliner, he said as he wrinkled his nose in concentration. Annabeth stared. Why? Selena gave me some, he shrugged. I thought it'd be fun. My mom can do this thing to make it like wings are on the end. Turns out it requires some practice, he said. Annabeth's lips quirked up as she continued to watch. And, the polka dots? And drawn on mustache? She asked, gesturing to the markings on Percy's face. He shrugged. I got bored. Naturally, she said, hiding a grin. That isn't waterproof, is it? She asked. Percy turned to stare at her blankly. Waterproof? You know, the stuff that is impossible to get off? She asked. Percy blinked and then turned the pencil over. He blinked a few more times, trying to keep the letters still as he read over the silver lettering. Impossible? He asked, voice going a little high. Annabeth laughed, straighter. Percy was forced to look like a fool for the entire car ride, and even worse, almost dying. This led them to the next bullet on Percy's fun little quest checklist. 6. Some dude tried to stretch him on a waterbed. He didn't want to be tall that badly, thanks. Are you okay? Annabeth asked, as Percy wobbled upright. He gave her a thumbs up. You look taller, she added. Percy looked up at her. Oh, you have a sense of humor now. Sorry, she said with a bashful grin. Percy stuck his tongue out at her. Also, now may not be the time, but maybe you should figure out how to wash off all that eyeliner before heading down to the underworld, she added. Percy glared. Not that it wasn't fun seeing you almost stretched to death with a drawn-on mustache and... This is my war paint. Oh, my mistake. That being said, how do I get it off? Annabeth rolled her eyes before dragging him and Grover to the nearest convenience store to get makeup remover. Percy was a little amazed such a thing existed, and worked so well, keeping so fascinated with admiring his perfectly clean face at the outdoor table they decided to rest at that he didn't notice when someone else appeared. Need one of these? A woman asked, holding out a mirror from her purse. Percy put down the spoon he had been trying to see his reflection in and accepted it with a grin. Thanks, he said, and flicked open the mirror. Wow, no signs of the eyeliner at all. That was so... Wait a minute. His eyes jerked back up. Monster? Was this a monster? He dropped the mirror to go for his weapon instead. He froze when he saw who was in front of him. Slowly, he turned to where Grover and Annabeth had been stress-eating. Grover, and doing some last-minute underworld research. Annabeth, who also seemed stunned at the appearance of their mystery guest. Hello? Percy began cautiously. The woman smiled at him with glittering eyes before clearing her throat. Hello, she sang, voice reminding him of Rhodes. I believe you have something of mine, she said, and gestured vaguely at Annabeth's bag. Percy tensed. On the one hand, he'd met enough gods during this trip, but this, he was pretty sure he knew who this was. She was like nothing he had ever seen before. Her form never seemed consistent, like shifting water. Her hair might have been any color, eyes any shade. She looked an odd amount like his mother mixed with a pretty actress he had seen on television as a kid. He found he couldn't look away. Thank you for getting it for me. Aries told me he sent you. I'm sorry you two ended up on television, she added with a nod towards Percy and Annabeth. My husband has a vengeful heart, she sighed, as Percy's mind tried to figure out what she was talking about. Wait. Her scarf. They'd found it along with Aries' shield at the stupid thrill ride of love. Percy felt his eyes widen. Road had come through. This was his chance. Lady Aphrodite? He asked. She smiled. Hello, sweetheart, she told him, and her eyes flickered down. I noticed you were wearing something familiar during that video of yours, she said, and leaned over to tap Percy's wrist. He followed her gaze. Selena's bracelet. Where did you happen to find it? Percy snatched his wrist back. Play it cool, Jackson. It was my mother's, he said. She told me that someone important gave it to her, he explained. Aphrodite's brows came together at that. She leaned back. Inwardly, he held his breath. Interesting. Tell me about your mother. Test. This was a test. Percy tilted his head at her, trying to appear as skeptical as possible. He couldn't seem too desperate. This might be his only chance to appeal to her in person. He began, and his voice suddenly caught. Despite the situation, he found it hard to even speak her name knowing she was gone. Away. He took a long breath. She's the kindest person I know, the best. She's beautiful and smart and works hard. She's had a million jobs since I was born. I realize now she was trying to hide me, he admitted. Did she ever say anything about your father? Percy bit his lip. Well, I mean, that's a little tricky, he admitted. Aphrodite raised an eyebrow. I never asked too many questions because it didn't seem like my business, but she never used the word father. I don't know why. She just said my other parent was someone important and rich who couldn't stay with us. Something about love being fleeting as the sea. I don't really know much other than that, he admitted. I guess now I know it's a god. Do gods have gender? He asked. Maybe that's why she never used the word father. Aphrodite stared. Slowly, she folded her hands together, leaning forward. She said. We can have whatever gender we want, though there are favorites. I prefer to stay female mostly, she told him. Percy racked his mind. What else could he use? He thought of the little notes Selina had put in the book she had given him. Ooh. Oh, he said suddenly, when his eyes flicked to the fruit stand a few feet away. Apples, he said, and licked his lips. Aphrodite's lips quirked upward. A favourite of yours? She asked, casually lifting her hand so one floated off of the stand. She plucked it from the air and handed it to him. He eagerly took it with a nod, biting in. Apples weren't his favourite, but they were still pretty good. When he was little, he used to eat them all the time, while pretending to be a horse. Don't judge him. Every kid pretends to be a horse at least once. He took a second bite before offering it to Annabeth. When she shook her head, he shrugged before taking another bite and giving the core to Grover. Thank you, he said with a bright grin. Aphrodite clicked her tongue. Lady Aphrodite? He asked, a little uncertainly. She turned to him. I don't want to be rude, but what are you doing here? He asked, twisting his hands together. He wasn't sure where the line between innocence and annoying was. He got the feeling he was skating on it, though. Aphrodite only smiled. Well, I wanted to get my scarf back, of course. She lightly grabbed it from Annabeth's backpack. Annabeth quickly pulled her bag towards her chest with a subtle look of outrage. And to see you in person. I think I have something to aid in your quest, she told them, and reached into a beaded purse to pluck out 3 pearls and place them in Percy's hand. This will help you get back from the netherworld safely, she promised. Percy nodded. Good. Right. Thank you, he said, and held the pearls close to his chest. Then wrinkled his nose. I like you better than your boyfriend. That wasn't even part of the act. It was an accurate statement. Ares was annoying. Though there was something about Aphrodite, something that somehow terrified him more than whatever Ares was spewing. Aphrodite chuckled. Oh? She asked, and leaned over to bop the end of his nose. Aren't you sweet? Annabeth made a slight noise of reproach at the back of her throat. Aphrodite's eyes flickered to her. Careful, sweetheart, she purred and lightly pulled at one of Annabeth's curls. You wouldn't want to fall in love with a rodent, would you? Annabeth's lips pursed. Percy very, very, very dearly wanted to point out that Aphrodite was the one who fell in love with Ares, arguably worse than any rodent, but exercised considerable restraint to keep his mouth shut. Anywho, Aphrodite brightened. I should get going. Good luck with the rest of your quest, my loves. Perseus, you and I should keep in touch. She smiled and tapped his chin. Was that good or bad? Sure, he started, but was cut off by her disappearing, leaving the smell of flowers behind. He turned to Annabeth and Grover. Did that go well? He asked them. Grover was beaming, giving him 2 thumbs up. Annabeth didn't look nearly as enthused. Do you think she could be a godly parent? I never said that. Well, it looked like it, she grumbled, crossing her arms. It would explain how you were able to get that cab driver to get us here, she said, and made a face. Ugh, Aphrodite. Percy scowled. Ugh, Athena. Ugh, you. Okay, Grover interrupted before Percy could respond. We need to get moving if we want to get an audience with Hades, he said with a slight shudder. Percy grimaced. That was right. And led them to number 7 on the nightmare quest list he was curating. 7. Entering the underworld. Fan-freaking-tastic. It went surprisingly well. Caron complained about needing a pay raise, Cerberus liked rubber balls, and they navigated through the entire place reasonably well. The bag that Ares gave them seemed to get heavier and heavier by the second as they finally reached the throne room. He supposed it was time to meet his uncle. Hades didn't have a modern look like Poseidon or Ares did. He was dressed in black robes that looked as if they were made of damned souls, with a silver wreath on his head. Percy stepped through the doors, meeting dark eyes that were watching him with clear disdain. You are brave to come here, son of Poseidon, he greeted, and Percy froze. Was this a joke? Was this a joke? Did he do all of this just for Hades to announce his parentage that casually as soon as he walked through the door? After all you've done to me, very brave indeed, or perhaps simply foolish. No, Percy would go down fighting, damn him. From either of Percy's sides, he could feel Annabeth and Grover were still at Hades' words. Son of who? Percy asked, and then held up his hands. Poseidon? Isn't that the sea god? Hades raised an eyebrow. Could I be his kid? He asked, trying to sound skeptical. I really like the beach, but one time a dolphin bit me, he added a bit dryly. And I have a kind of weird fear of crabs. Is that, normal? He asked, looking around. Annabeth only blinked at him a few times. Hades stared. This is why they shouldn't send unclaimed heroes on quests, he muttered. You don't know who your godly parent is? Percy shook his head, then gasped. At least he could mess with him a bit. He deserved it for trying to wreck all of his hard work. Wait, is it you? No, Hades groaned, throwing up his hands. You are the spitting image of one of my brother's favorite mortal forms. It has to be, I look like Zeus? Poseidon! My name is Percy, he said, and Hades growled as he rubbed his temples. You smell of the sea. How is this not obvious? Oh, well, I did use a sea breeze body wash at the hotel, Percy told him. Hades glared. If I'm Poseidon's kid, then I am very bad at it. I almost drown a lot, he mused, and then snapped his fingers. But I am really good at finding pearls in oysters. Is that a Poseidon thing? Hades slowly turned to Annabeth, as if he was hoping she might have an answer. Pearls, he repeated slowly. Percy nodded. Like the ones Aphrodite gave us? He said, and brought out one and held it up. Hades leaned back in his throne. She was really nice. I would think that I was her kid, but, well, you have my mom around here somewhere, he said. Hades pursed his lip, looking him over with consideration. Could you give her back now? If you are not Poseidon's child, then why did you steal the bolt and my helm? An awkward pause followed. Percy said, this time actually confused. I think there's a misunderstanding here, he said slowly. You stole the bolt, and did you say your helm? He asked. Hades narrowed his eyes. You dare to play dumb with me, child? No, my lord. Annabeth spoke up from beside him. He really is dumb, she said, and Percy turned to her. She winced. He really doesn't know what you're talking about. She quickly rectified and gave him an apologetic look. Sorry, she whispered. Freudian slip. I don't know what a Freudian slip is, but I know I'm offended, he muttered, and turned back to Hades. I didn't steal anything. Given that this was the truth, you would think this would be a short conversation. Evidently not. Hades had a lot to complain about. Commuting was apparently a nightmare, and Hades sounded a smidge overwhelmed with his duties. Percy's input of Karen's pay raise was also not well received. Still, things got a little tricky when it turned out Percy did have the master belt in his bag. Things got even more problematic when Hades flicked his wrist to show none other than Sally Jackson, still in a golden ball of light. Percy decided he hated quests. Aphrodite had only given them 3 pearls, 3 people to escape. Percy could take his mother, but someone else would have to stay behind. We were tricked, Percy said, mind zipping a million different directions. He had been so concerned with tricking everyone else that, well, he hadn't quite seen this coming. Swallowing, he looked back at Hades, then his mother, then to Annabeth and Grover, who both seemed ready to stay behind. He couldn't let that happen, not after all they had been through. His heart sunk. They say when you're caught in the details that you miss the big picture. Percy had been so concerned with being claimed and his mother, he hadn't thought of the bigger repercussions. A war was on the horizon. People would die if he didn't get this bolt back to Zeus. People would die if Hades didn't get his helm. This wasn't just about him. He had taken a quest to get recognized, but it was still his quest now. He had to take responsibility for it. He handed a pearl to Annabeth and Grover. His mind drifted towards his mother, then Hades. I'm afraid you're wrong, Lord Hades, he said, turning to face him. I am no son of Poseidon, though it honors me to think myself a child of the sea. I will find a way to right these wrongs for you. I will find and return your helm, he said, and swallowed. I hope you'll be patient as I work, he said with pained eyes. Please, he thought desperately, don't hurt her. Let me come back for her. Hades' smile faded. Godling. Perhaps consider Charon's pay raise. And Cerberus likes rubber balls, he added. Also, maybe think about wearing your hair back. It would look much nicer, he advised, and, with a nod at the other 2, stomped on the pearls. Hades was yelling, some threats in Greek and English and other languages he didn't know. Percy didn't have time to consider them, since they'd crashed through the ceiling and into the ocean above. He swallowed. It was time. After all, he knew who had tricked them. Perhaps it was time to add another check mark on his never-ending list of side quests. 8. Fight the god of war. Ares. Percy really should have known. Giving him a backpack was way too suspicious on his part. After the Coast Guard picked them up from the middle of the sea, Percy could see the god waiting for them on the shore of the beach. He grinned when the 3 approached before giving a 2-fingered wave. Percy glowered. You stole it, he said with narrowed eyes. You stole both, he added, remembering Hades' helm. Ares shrugged, spieling off his reasoning. Lust for war, or whatever it was. Percy wasn't impressed. Look, punk, Ares told him, whirling his baseball bat around. Rumor has it that you might be my girlfriend's kid. I don't want to kill my girlfriend's kid, he said, and raised his hands. Percy felt his heart stutter. People were saying that? On Olympus? He tried not to smile. This was a serious situation, after all. And yet? Percy asked, shifting towards the sea next to them. Do not bind me, he added as a secret prayer. Then realized he probably shouldn't order a god around. Please don't bind me. I think I know what I'm doing, so maybe consider not doing that? And yet, you're being a pain in the ass, Aries said. Percy held out a hand. I'm going to tell my maybe mom you said that. Oh, I'm going to hate you, aren't I? I have a history of not getting along with my stepfathers, Percy told him flatly, and brought out his sword. It was a horrible little blade that he hated dearly. It felt awkward and unbalanced, but he had gotten semi-decent at wielding it throughout the quest. Not enough to defeat the literal god of war, though. That might be a problem. Can I have the helm? He asked with a nod towards Ares. He grinned. Ooh, charm speak. Pretty, but won't work on a god boy, he said. Percy scowled. He was probably right, though. There were rules to charm speaking. People were less affected if the person had a strong will to fight against it, the person knew about the person's ability to charm speak, the person wasn't attracted to the person who was charm speaking. The rules of using one's siren voice were fairly similar, according to Rode. And Ares had a strong will, check. Knew he could charm speak, to an extent, check. And if this god was attracted to 12-year-old Percy, then he was calling the police immediately, check. Needless to say, it wasn't looking good. Still, Percy could maybe do it if Ares was weak enough. According to Rode, Still, Percy could maybe do it if Ares was weak enough. According to Rode, he had a good amount of raw power. It might be time to try something else, though. His eyes flicked to the mist of the beach, then to his sword. His mind flashed to sitting at the edge of the pool with Rode in the Lotus Hotel. I can't do this. This is just magic. Part of beauty is perception, Rode said, watching with amusement. Something ugly to one person is beautiful to another. It is why Aphrodite is never just one thing. She is everything and she is nothing. Water is much the same way. You find it within yourself and every living thing. People see it in different forms, different ways. It takes skill and practice, but you can do it. Percy didn't have skill or practice, but he did have desperation. That would have to do. As soon as Annabeth and Grover stepped away after their votes of perhaps undeserved confidence, he stepped in the water, letting the waves lap at his feet. As he pulled out his sword, subtly he flicked his wrist so that the sea mist twisted towards him. Ares gave a feral grin. Any last words, punk? I was going to ask you the same thing, Percy said, and took a deep breath as he readied his blade. Ares narrowed his eyes. I can't die. I've fought for eternity. My strength is endless. What exactly do you have? He asked. Percy wanted to say a small ego, but figured he should focus right now. He fixed his stance and nodded. Ares flicked his baseball bat, forming a sword with his eyes flickering so much that the fire almost blinded him. It was fine, Ares struck. Percy let the waves guide him, helping him weave and dodge through a series of strikes. Ares let out a low whistle. Not bad, kid, he said and turned around. Not what? He countered, and Percy felt his heart pick up the pace. What the hell is this? Ares asked, lowering his sword. Percy glanced down. Sure enough, the sea mist surrounding him had formed a sort of invisible mirror. Ares was no longer looking at Percy, but at Annabeth. Ares turned to where the real Annabeth was standing, only to stumble back when Percy let the mist drop away so that he could launch forward to attack. I thought you spent lots of time around Aphrodite, he said, when their swords clanged together. Don't you know how her powers work? You little... Percy cut him off by diving to the ground, summoning the sea mist again to form another version of himself a foot away. When Ares struck again, he went right through it, leaving Percy the chance to stab up, nicking his arm. Gold blood trickled down as Ares whirled around with pure rage boiling in his features. Percy tried to summon another illusion, but nothing came. Focus, focus, focus. He blocked another one of Ares' hits. Quickly, he stepped back into the water, letting it revive him for a moment, and come on! He tried to think of what could distract Ares. He tried for Grover, but Ares only slashed through him with his sword as he wildly started hacking at whatever was in the way. In the distance, Percy could hear Annabeth yelling about cops. Not good. Harry sent an explosion somewhere behind them as he let out a feral snarl and struck again. Come on, what would... Wait. Percy rolled, barely missing another hit as he tried in vain to remember what Luke had taught him about swordsmanship. When you have the shorter blade, getting close. Naturally, Percy stumbled up, putting as little distance between them as possible, while using the rest of his energy to summon one last illusion from the mist. Perceptions. What would Ares' perception of this final illusion be, though? He glanced at the sea. Selena. What was it she had said to him? It was one of the first things she had mentioned. He clumsily made a feint with his sword and gave Rhoda a prayer that she might actually answer. Let this work. Please let this work. Aphrodite? Ares asked, voice faltering. Percy glanced over just in time to see his final creation from the mist rise. He had no idea what form Aphrodite took with Ares, but the steam foam now surrounding them could at least make him think she was coming. Just as Ares looked around to find her, Percy brought his sword down, hard. A burst of light followed. He heard cops screaming and sirens wailing as Ares stumbled back. Percy quickly used the handle of his sword to crack down on his head, leaving him dazed in the tide as he suddenly used the wave to trip him up. Percy, on the other hand, was far from dazed. He let the water fill him, focusing all its energy on reaching into that pocket of something rising from his stomach to his throat. When he spoke again, his voice sounded soft. Give me the helm, he ordered. Ares' eyes went unfocused. Clumsily, he reached out and brought a black helmet from seemingly nowhere, tossing it at Percy. Fascinating. Percy walked over and plucked Ares' sword out of his hand, tossing it in the waves. Now, say you're a little jerk who's compensating. I'm a jerk who's compensating. Percy grinned. Ares continued and froze. Suddenly, his entire form seemed to snap back together in rage. He looked around, perhaps realizing his sword was gone, and leveled Percy with a look of pure hatred. You have made an enemy of me, he gritted out, rising as he began to shine brightly. The police were shouting something, but Percy was too tired to make it out. He began, but went quiet, when the world suddenly went dark. Everything seemed to pause, like moving in quicksand. The world dimmed. Sound stopped. Light seemed to stop. A coldness zapped through the air. Then, just like that, it was gone. Ares stared at the sky, eyes widening in horror. When he looked back at Percy, his lips curled in distaste. I may care for your mother, demigod, but do not think that will protect you from my wrath. I will lurk behind your airy battle, cursing your blade and your spirit, he warned and stepped away. From the beach, Annabeth screamed for Percy to look away. He did so with ease, body already faltering as he felt blistering heat beside him. As Ares' true form was revealed. When he looked back up, Ares was gone. Good. So that was done? Percy dragged himself forward, energy completely gone. Gone. He had never felt so tired in his life. You've massively overextended your powers, Rhoda's voice informed him. Perhaps take it slower next time? Yeah, he mumbled as he collapsed on the beach, helm falling beside him. He could see the Furies next to them, whispering among one another. I'll keep that in mind, he breathed out. Something was touching his arm. He could tell. Tired. He felt the helm lifted from his grip. Give to Hades, he managed. The world was blurry. Should it be blurry? He didn't have time to get reassurance because the next time he closed his eyes, the world went black. Note to self, just because you technically can do something does not mean you should. The police had desperately wanted to take him to the hospital, but given their rapidly approaching deadline, Percy had to decline and allow Annabeth to drag his half-conscious form onto a plane, which people had very nicely paid for after the newest version of the story came out. So, yeah, to continue on his checklist. 9. Get on a plane. And look, he wasn't saying getting on a plane was hard, but Selinda's book had left a threatening note. Aphrodite is the daughter of the sea and the sky. So, for anyone looking to emulate the goddess, try to appear as entranced by the sky as you do at the sea. Percy was not entranced by the sky. He did not like the sky at all. It wasn't the place humans were supposed to go. The sea was welcoming. It held other life, other homes. The sky was a highway with random pockets of water and chaos. He did not enjoy it, and the idea he was supposed to sit on this plane and act fascinated made him want to throw up. Are you alright? Annabeth asked him. Percy glanced at her. My grandparents died in a plane crash, he told her, unable to fully commit to this one aspect of the gag. So planes aren't my favourite. Give me sunsets or star watching any day. I'm not a fan of planes, he muttered. Annabeth's face softened. She bit her lip before looking around. Maybe we should distract ourselves, she suggested, eyes falling to where Percy was holding the arms of his seat with a steel grip. Your powers while fighting Ares were interesting, she said slowly. Percy felt hot. Oh gods. Could he keep his lies together under duress? He glanced at her. The water seemed to help you. You're not thinking about what Hades said, are you? He asked. Annabeth's eyes widened before she quickly shook her head. No, of course not. It actually is what convinced me, she said. Percy frowned, tilting his head slightly. I think you are a child of Aphrodite, she said. He blinked. What? Really? There was no way she really bought into that, right? He couldn't read her well enough to be sure. It just didn't seem likely that he could fool a daughter of Athena. Ares probably did that on purpose. What do you mean? He said himself that he wanted war, Annabeth shrugged, and there was no way to convince Zeus or Hades to fight against Poseidon unless he had something of his own in all of this, she said with a wave of her hand. Why would either accuse him of orchestrating any heist without a demigod who could pull it off? Or a reason for it, she shrugged. So he picked the newest, strongest, unclaimed demigod who would seem to have a tie to the sea and just pin the label on you, she said. Percy blinked a few times. That makes sense, he said slowly. And if they thought I was Poseidon's kid, not only would nobody suspect Ares, but they would kill me before anyone figured out I was innocent, he said. Huh. I didn't think Ares could be that cunning, he said, a little relieved that Annabeth was. She frowned, looking thoughtful. Yeah, I didn't know he could be either. She mused and watched with pity as Percy flinched at the turbulence. Grover peered around from his other side. Not a baby, you, he said, and held his hand. But would you feel better if... Yes, Percy said, and grabbed his hand. Annabeth snorted. You cried when we saw that spider. He scowled at her and turned back to Grover. You are the ultimate best friend, he informed him, ignoring Annabeth's outraged gasp from his other side. Thank you for helping me survive this metal tube of death, he said solemnly. Grover smiled fondly. I can play Jason Mraz on my pipes. I will not be returning your hand for you to do that. Sorry. Luckily, they did not die on the plane, which was nice. It was decided as they got off the dreaded thing that Percy should be the one to return the bolt. Alone. Percy wasn't thrilled with that idea, but sure. You're the one who needs to be claimed, Annabeth said as she patted his shoulder. I've honored my mother. That's all I wanted. You're the one who needs to be in the spotlight now, so Aphrodite can claim you. She smiled. Percy nodded weakly, hands sweating as he tried not to think about the weapon of mass destruction in his backpack, as Grover also said his goodbyes. Percy hugged him tight, praying to everyone and no one that they would see each other again. Thus came another item on his list. 10. Enter Olympus. Terrifying, but he had made it this far. The receptionist had tried to wave him away, but the sight of the bolt had quickly silenced him, so that Percy was given the key to an elevator and hovering high above New York City. Somewhere off to his left was a massive garden with plants bursting in various colors. Part of him wanted to head off there instead of the long pathway in front of him, where the two giant doors that sat between him and what could be the end of his life were. A dark part of him wondered how many children who had been accused of being children of the Big Three had stood here. What happened to them exactly? The girl Percy had seen on the first day of camp had never returned. The thought chilled his blood. Grover said Chiron wouldn't send them here if they were truly in any danger, right? He took a deep breath and entered the room. It looked pretty empty, with lowly lit fires on either side of him and marble columns. There was only one other person in the room, a man who sat at the end of the hall, in a grand throne with stormy eyes and a tense posture. His eyes narrowed when he saw Percy approach. Unsure of what to do, Percy knelt for a few moments. "Brother?" Zeus greeted. No? Wait, how did Aphrodite's family tree work?" Percy risked a glance to see Zeus hadn't been addressing him. Instead, he turned to a second figure appearing in the throne beside Zeus. Oh, that explained it. The god in front of him looked much older than his counterpart, weathered with shoulder-length white hair and a long beard. "This is not your usual form," Zeus noted, raising an eyebrow. "Are you somehow distressed?" he asked. "You accuse me of breaking our sacred oath, and then accuse me of stealing my brother's symbol of power," the newcomer said flatly, as his form hardened until Percy was positive he was more than a semblance of mist. "Of course I am distressed," he snapped, and glanced down at Percy. "Was this Poseidon? It must be. You truly summoned me here to tell me the stranger is mine, as he wears Aphrodite's favor?" he asked with a nod towards Percy's wrist. Zeus's gaze followed. "Child, where did you get that?" he asked. Percy's heart rate quickened. He needed to play this cool. His life depended on it. "It was my mother's," he said, and held it closer to his chest. "That's all she really told me about it. That it was given by someone important to her." He forced his voice as low and calm as possible. It was the same spiel he had given Aphrodite. He only hoped they bought it. Poseidon threw an exasperated hand. Zeus frowned, leaning back into his throne, while tapping his fingers against his knee. "Let us summon her then." "Damn it." "Who?" Percy asked, feigning ignorance. He was ignored. "Probably for the best." Zeus and Poseidon began speaking lowly to one another in Greek. Not knowing what else to do, he brought out the Master Bolt and placed it at the foot of Zeus's throne. Immediately, the whispers stopped. There was a pause. "Tell me your story, child," Zeus finally said, "and quickly, before Lady Aphrodite arrives." Not knowing what else to do, Percy obliged, omitting a couple of details, obviously. Zeus listened, lips pursed as he tapped his fingers against his throne thoughtfully. Finally, he opened his palm, allowing the bolt to fly into his hand. "Hades will be insufferable about this," he finally sighed. "And Ares. This is most unlike him," he muttered. Poseidon gave some sort of low comment in return that had his brother giving him a scathing look. "On the matter of your parentage," Zeus continued, ignoring Poseidon, "I am afraid you cannot leave until the matter is settled. If Aphrodite does not claim you, you may be forced to attend trial." "Trial? They were trials?" "How would I—" he began, but was interrupted by a new form suddenly appearing, sending the sweet smell of rain and perfume sweeping across the room. Aphrodite. Percy tried not to let his panic show as she approached him. Her eyes flickered over him for a moment before closing the distance between them. He offered a shy smile as she walked over to tap a finger under his chin. Gods, she knew. She knew. Ares told me you used charm speak against him, she finally said, completely ignoring Zeus and Poseidon altogether. Percy's mouth went dry, not knowing what else to do. He nodded. And your mother is Sally? She asked. Percy nodded again. He watched as her brows came together. Confusion was hinting underneath her features. Sally. I've been with many mortals named Sally, she mused. It's a common name. Percy pretended to look disappointed. Oh, I see, he said, and looked down at his shoes. Aphrodite's grip on him tightened. I do not mean that callously, darling. I have been with many mortals. They can blur. That doesn't mean I do not care for you or your mother, she said slowly, and then tilted her head. You did use some of my powers. Charm speak and perception altering. It is impressive you can wield both, she mused, and tilted his head a bit to the side. They are rare powers to inherit from me. I would be curious to learn what else you have. Ares said you were stronger by the sea? Percy had to fight not to panic at that. It wasn't asked with suspicion, only polite curiosity. He shrugged. I guess, he said, and then a sudden light went off in his head. My mom is big on beach trips. I spent half my childhood at Montauk. I guess I'm just more comfortable there, he said. Aphrodite hummed. That could be where I met her, she mused, and turned his face again. You certainly look like one of mine. Pretty, she added. We're going to use the word pretty? Percy Australi? From behind her. Poseidon's eyes narrowed. Oh, right. Percy pasted in a smile. Because I prefer very pretty, he quickly corrected himself. Aphrodite chuckled. Um, you were looking at this earlier, he added, holding up the bracelet Selena had given him. Is this yours? Aphrodite's brows raised at the sight of it. She took his hand, studying him over, then bit her lip. I am so sorry, she finally said and let him go. I tend to be so good at keeping track of my children. I did not mean for you to slip through the cracks, she finally said. Percy felt his heart stop. No way. No way was he getting away with this. He forced himself to react. It's okay, he said, and rubbed the side of his arm. Are you my mom, then? Aphrodite smiled at him. But why did Hades think I could be Poseidon's kid? He asked, shooting a baffled look towards the other two gods, who were watching impassively. He figured it was best to iron that out now, before it became a lingering thought. Aphrodite gave a bright laugh. Paranoia, she assured him. I am also a daughter of the sea. I come from the foam of the sea. Sometimes my children reflect my heritage more than others. If I met your mother at Montauk, that would explain it. I probably would have appeared to her in my more water-orientated form, she said, and offered a small smile. I'm glad to see you share my solace in the waves, she told him fondly. Percy could not believe he was getting away with this. So you claim him? Zeus asked, voice impatient. This is your son? He was alone? Alone? I believe Sally Jackson had a hand in it, but yes, I believe he's mine, even if I have grown absent-minded. I should have seen it on the roller coaster, she mused. Percy tried not to have a flashback over the stupid thriller love ride. And my child has done well, has he not? I expect he is owed a reward. After all, he cleared his own name and returned your bolts, Lord Zeus. Zeus scowled. Poseidon lifted a hand. He has cleared my name as well. If you wish for a reward, I will gladly give you one to put this all behind us, he said, and flickered his hand. A pen appeared in front of him, floating between him and Aphrodite. He blinked. When it was clear that he was meant to take it, he slowly reached out and grabbed it. Alrighty then. Thank you, Lord Poseidon, he said. Were pens valuable to Olympians or something? Poseidon gave a low chuckle. Uncap it, Perseus. Oh, alright. a live demonstration then. He took off the lid and immediately almost dropped it when the pen changed shape, growing quickly in his hand until he was left with a bronze sword glittering in the fires surrounding them. He stared with wide eyes. "It is called an or riptide," Poseidon said, as Percy admired the sword. It was more balanced than anything he had used so far. The handle already seemed molded to his grip. "Since you follow in your mother's footsteps of returning to the sea, then this will always return to you." Percy didn't know what to say. "A very fine gift," Zeus spoke slowly, "to give to a random demigod, child. He is not random for honoring me and preventing a war on my behalf," the sign dismissed with an almost bored wave. "Besides, I have no child left to pass the thing down to. Your son once wielded it, much to my displeasure. Why not this demigod? Aphrodite, are you pleased with this reward?" he asked. Aphrodite pursed her lips for a moment before giving a nod. "It will do, I suppose," she said, and raised an eyebrow. "Perhaps thank Lord Poseidon again for such a generous gift," she added. "Oh, right." Percy capped the sword and watched in wonder as it shrank again. "Thank you, Lord Poseidon. I will do my best to honor both you and my mother with it," he said. Poseidon hummed. "Well," Zeus said, and stood up, setting the room silent and small. "If this is resolved, then I must bathe my bolt in the river of Lethos to remove the taint," he said, and fixed Percy with a look. "I thank you for your service, demigod. Your mother is a powerful goddess. Continue to do well by her name, and you may prove yourself a worthy hero," he said. Aphrodite smiled. A loud burst of thunder followed, and Zeus was gone. "I still say he would have done well as a god of theatre," Poseidon muttered as he stood up, trident in hand, with wisps of blue and green rising like fire around the tips. "Lady Aphrodite," he nodded. "Always a pleasure," he told her smoothly. "I must return to Atlantis," he said. Within a blink of an eye, he was next to him, now human-sized. Percy almost tripped at the suddenness of his appearance. "But I thank you once more for your aid, Perseus," he added, and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do not let your guard down," his voice echoed inside Percy's head. "This is only the first of many challenges you will face." "I just wanted to save my mom," he stuttered, trying not to react to the random voice inside his head. The son's eyes darkened. The hand on Percy's shoulder squeezed tightly. What? What was he trying to tell him? Percy realized with a jolt that Poseidon couldn't intervene on his mom's behalf, not without revealing himself. Percy turned to Aphrodite. "Will I get her back?" he asked, wringing his hands. "Now that we know I'm innocent?" "I will speak to Hades on the matter," Aphrodite assured him. "Despite popular belief, he is a fair god. I believe he will return your mother unharmed," she said. Percy let out a small smile of relief. "And who was that man on television? Gabriel?" Percy's smile disappeared. "My stepfather," he said with a sigh. "Grover said she was with him to hide my smell," he said. Aphrodite looked at him for a long time. He wasn't sure what she was thinking. There was something terrifying about her, something he couldn't quite pinpoint. When she spoke again, her voice was careful and measured. "You do not like him?" "I don't think anyone does," he said bitterly. Aphrodite looked at him with thoughtful eyes. "Oh, and Ares, he doesn't. And Ares, he doesn't like me very much right now," he added. That was obvious, but given the relationship, he thought it was prudent to point it out. Aphrodite sighed. "Yes, he was upset by your fight," she said. "He will not harm you, worry not. Believe it or not, my eye is known to be worse than his, and it is better than to attack something I have claimed as my own. It has been a mistake he's made in the past," she said cryptically. Percy tried not to look too alarmed by that. I will also address the matter of this Gabriel, she said, and tilted her head. Until then, we must part. I need to plan your claiming, she said. She smiled, which was terrifying. Claiming? Didn't he just get a dove over his head or something? He wasn't sure how to feel about that. Maybe the Sally of yours should receive some of Perseus's. Maybe the Sally of yours should receive some of Perseus's mail, Poseidon said loftily, and let his hand slide off of Percy's shoulder. It left his skin feeling as if he had just gotten out of a pool. If I may be so bold? Aphrodite laughed. Not that Percy knew what they were talking about, but sure. A fine idea, my lord. I will consider such actions if decided they are needed, she told him. Poseidon gave a slight bow of the head before disappearing with the smell of the ocean behind him. Aphrodite hummed. Percy waited. Was this the moment she told him that he was full of it? I am so sorry, she said again. Percy blinked. I feel cruel, having forgotten my own child, she told him. There really are just so many, she sighed. And not every mortal I've been with results in a demigod, she explained, tucking a wayward strand of Percy's hair down. I will try to make it up to you. Great. Now he felt bad. Aphrodite was really nice. He tried to focus on the fact that he would literally be murdered if he didn't go through with this. I'm just happy that I got to meet you, he said, with a small shrug. I don't need anything else. You're sweet, she laughed, and patted his cheek. Well, know I stand behind you, Perseus. You've done well by me. I will not forget that. Thank you, he said, and then cleared his throat. Mother? He asked, tasting the new word on his tongue. Aphrodite tilted her head. I have a question, he said, slowly, and wrung his hands. There was a girl from when I first came to camp. They called her a Katara. Aphrodite's expression went blank. I know she was sent here, and I thought maybe she could come back with me. Silence. That's sweet of you, Aphrodite finally said, but I'm afraid Clara cannot join you. Clara. Her name was Clara. Somehow her name made this all feel worse. Why? Was she really, you know? Percy said, feeling his anxiety rise. Aphrodite sighed. One of them? God's lie, darling. Zeus said she wasn't his, but ultimately it was left up to the council to decide. Nobody else claimed her, and she did share some traits with him, she said with a purse of her lips. It was a close vote this time. I think it only went the way it did because we were so close to the brink of war, she admitted. Percy's heart stuttered. But ultimately, it was decided she was a risk. No. You killed her? Oh, no, sweetheart, she said. Percy took a step back. She is very much alive and safe. We just have to keep her somewhere else. When you're older, I'll show you, she promised. That didn't make Percy feel any better. At all. That must sound so scary to someone who is new to all of this, she sighed. Later. We can talk about this later, she promised, and touched his cheek. Besides, it is nothing for you to worry about. Now, you'll be claimed officially soon enough. Right, sure. If Zeus had claimed her, then would you have killed her? He asked, well aware of how far he was pushing. Aphrodite gave him a startled look. Why are you... Oh, have you heard the stories? Percy wasn't sure what story she meant exactly. The ones of the war? She sighed and placed a hand on either of his shoulders. Listen to me. No big three kids are coming to get you. We can control them, and I will not allow them to harm another child of mine. Not again, she said darkly. That damn son of Poseidon will be the last one, she said. Percy blinked. What? What? What was she talking about? He didn't dare ask for more. Instead, he gave a weak smile. I believe you, he said. Aphrodite beamed. Good. Off you go then, she said, and lightly pushed him away. Percy gave one last weak smile before turning away. Somehow, he couldn't decide if he felt better or worse. The trip back to camp felt daunting. In theory, he knew he was safe. He had done it. Soon enough, people would stop regarding him as a suspect, and he could actually enjoy himself. Maybe. Could you enjoy yourself someplace where you secretly knew everyone wanted you dead? Still, it was all he had. He couldn't learn to defend himself anywhere else. His mind flickered to Luke's proposal before he left. What was the secret, safe place he had mentioned? He shook his head before looking out over the volleyball court next to the pine tree by the camp entrance. People were watching. A few campers had stopped to stare as he stepped inside of camp. An awkward silence followed as he shifted further inside, holding his breath. Whispers rolled over them all, and Potter Percy was ready to run when a boy rolled his eyes and shoved a few kids out of the way. "Stop gawking," he said. "The guy probably needs a sandwich, not a bunch of weirdos staring at him," he said, and shook his head. He turned back to Percy. "Ignore them. Annabeth said you were practically already claimed, but they're probably freaked out that you pummeled Ares." "Shut your damn mouth," Clarice's voice followed from somewhere in the crowd. "I went to Olympus," he said, and then glanced over his shoulder again. "And if they let him return here, then he's perfectly safe," he said loudly. "So go bother someone else." Percy watched as the campers all grumbled before going back to whatever they were doing before. Curiously, Percy looked over the new boy. Taller, blond, with large violet eyes and that crooked smile. "Thank you," he said. "Aren't you Mr. D's kid?" he asked, racking his memory. The boy smiled. "You won't hold that against me, will you?" he asked. Percy grinned. "I'm Castor, my brother, Pollux. It's the guy who looks like me and is currently trying to figure out how knives work," he said brightly. From behind him, a boy that was indeed identical to Castor scowled with a few choice words under his breath. "Annabeth and Grover told us some of the quest, but won't give too many details. Care to do the honors at the campfire tonight?" Percy smiled. "Sure," he said, trying not to appear too pleased by the offer. He wasn't sure reconvening over the past week would be all that fun, but it was nice to think he had people who at least wanted him alive enough to tell the story. And, in the end, they all were pretty good listeners. Grover and Annabeth helped him out a lot. Percy only really jumped in when he felt the need to keep certain Poseidon-ish aspects to a minimum. He was just getting to the part where he was returning the bolt when a soft gasp sounded. There was a subtle breeze in the air, and suddenly Percy felt as though someone had thrown him into a car wash. What was this? His body felt tingly. With a nervous jolt in his chest, he looked down. This was weird. He didn't like that at all. His clothes had changed from his ragged jeans and camp t-shirt to a sort of... was it a dress? No, not quite a dress. It was like a robe, maybe? The material was soft and silky, also layered. Percy might have to wear this forever, because he didn't think he could get out of it. The bottom portion was a navy blue that fell to his knees, while another piece of fabric around his shoulders and somehow looped around his torso with a soft sea green. This wasn't all of it, though. Oh no, oh no, no, no. Clasping the two together was a golden pendant shaped like a dove that matched the golden sandals he was now wearing. His hair was different too. Something sat on him, like a crown, except he was pretty sure it was just a golden band. He looked down. "Help," he decided was the appropriate response. Everyone around the campfire all stared at him. Grover beamed as Annabeth gave a resigned nod of acceptance. A few kids next to Selena gave excited whispers to one another as they all looked at Percy with expectant eyes. "It seems," Karen said, being the first to speak, "that the gods have spoken. All of you may pay your respects and bow down to the son of Aphrodite," he said. A few campers quickly followed suit, while others rolled their eyes as they carefully placed their smalls beside them before kneeling. Luke gave him a subtle thumbs up before bowing his head alongside the others. The bouncing ball shooting around Percy's stomach finally slowed. It appeared the last step of his quest was finally finished. 11. Get claimed. And Percy had done it. He'd been claimed by another god. He was safe. For now, all he had to do is keep the facade and hope nobody. So you're an Aphrodite kid now, huh? Well, that lasted a good 10 minutes. He turned to see Selina Beauregard standing behind him as he moved the last of his things to the very pink cabin. He felt his face grow white as he tried to recover his wits. No, yes, I am. She claimed me, so yeah, I'm an Aphrodite child. That's me, Percy said and smiled. Selina looked at him with her arms crossed. She nodded. I see, she said, and glanced over her shoulder towards where the rest of her siblings were still by the campfire. You're pretty enough to be my brother, she mused, echoing Aphrodite's words as she stepped closer to him. He tried to remember she had helped him to get this far. She wouldn't sell him out now, would she? We're going to need to pierce your ears. Wait, what? Aphrodite kids like to accessorize, she shrugged. Pierced ears would help you. We'll need to alter your camp outfit a bit too. Have you heard of hair gel? She asked with a slight click of her tongue, reaching over to try and flatten his hair. Percy opened his mouth a few times, but found the words couldn't quite come out. You also need to learn French. French? Why? All children of Aphrodite know it. Naturally, she added. Percy felt his eyes widen. Well, that wasn't good. I'll teach you, don't worry. You're also going to need to up the charm. You're also going to need to up the charm. Rude, but sure. What do you mean? You're 12. Most middle schoolers are awkward. I'm afraid you don't get the opportunity to have an awkward phase. I'm all for breaking parental stereotypes, but I think in your case, you might need to be a bit more by the book, she told him. Percy's eyes were widened. That wasn't good at all. He wasn't sure he could be a stereotypical Aphrodite kid. Oh, he said, and his voice sounded so ridiculously small. Selina's eyes immediately softened. He began and clenched his hands, staring down at his feet. Selina put a hand on his arm. I'm still scared, he admitted to the ground. He felt another hand fall on his opposite arm, and wrist glanced up. I know, she said, and studied him for a moment. I won't let anything happen to you. We're family now, right? She asked. Percy gave a hesitant nod. Good. Then we can work together, she said. You won't end up like Thalia Grace. Percy let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Without thinking, he launched himself at her, clinging tightly as she patted his back. I want tattoos, he decided, when he pulled away. Selina raised an eyebrow. Is that Aphrodite-ish? He asked. I was thinking about it because you said the pierced ears thing. Also, I'm still bad at winged eyeliner, he muttered. Feeling his previous confidence dwindle, Selina laughed. I'll teach you what you need to know. As for the tattoos, I'm game, but let's wait until you're older, okay? Percy pouted. Maybe when you're 15, we can do something small. I bet I can even figure out some magic to make the move, she said. Percy brightened at that. His mother would kill him, but that kind of sounded cool. We can do it sea-related in honor of our mother. We can do it sea-related in honor of our mother, obviously, she smiled warmly. Percy grinned back. Selina looked at him for a moment before grabbing his arm and leading him even farther from the campfire, interlinking their arms. I should get moved in. There is another option, she told him gently. Percy blinked. There was? He tilted his head as he let her weave through the various structures of camp, with her arms still firmly held together. It might even be safer than pretending, but... She took a long breath. They were heading towards the ocean, he realized. The thought calmed him. But what? Selina stopped walking. Percy jerked at the suddenness of it, almost falling when she pulled him back. He frowned at her as she let go of his arm to instead spin him so they were face to face. She stared at him. "There's a place outside of camp. You could go. I could find a way to get you there," she said, voice low and careful. "It would be safe for you," she explained and looked around. Percy waited. "Is it the place Luke sometimes takes unclaimed kids to?" he asked. Selena nodded. The words sounded good, but her tone was scaring him. Would I still be able to see my mom? He had heard no word on her yet, but Percy was going to give Aphrodite some time before marching back into the underworld to collect her. Selena shook her head. "No, you wouldn't be able to leave for a while. The gods could find you again if you did," she explained, then closed her eyes. "Percy, Ares didn't steal that bolt." "What do you mean? It was in the backpack he gave me. He took the helm too." "No," Selena said tightly, and her fingers dug into him deeper. "Listen, a camper did it," she whispered. Percy stared. A camper?" He didn't understand. "He's leaving tonight. There isn't a lot of time to explain. He wanted to turn the gods against one another. It would have weakened the Olympians." "Why would he want them weakened?" Percy asked, though he was pretty sure he knew the answer. He thought back to the darkness that settled over his and Ares' fights, to the world he had heard Poseidon and Zeus whisper to one another in ancient Greek. Is he helping the Titans rise? Are you?" he asked, voice going up. Selena shushed him. "Percy, that's why the gods and campers want you dead. A child of the big three will decide who wins, Titans or gods. The gods will kill anyone who poses a threat to them, but the Titans, they would keep you alive. Go with Luke, and he will keep you safe." "Luke? Luke Castellan? He stole the bolt?" Percy asked, her voice going high. It shouldn't be that much of a surprise, but he still feels as though someone had just whacked him with a baseball bat. No. He can't be." "I won't make you," Selena said. Percy narrowed his eyes. She could make him if she wanted to. She could. Her charm speak could do it. "I want you to choose your own side, so I won't tell anyone the truth about you if you stay. I'll help you blend in, but you can also leave," she said. Percy didn't know what to do. Honestly, he had just gotten here. What the Hades was this? "But," he began, and then ran a hand over his face. "What about your mom? Why are you siding against What about your mom? Why are you siding against her?" he asked, a little upset. Admittedly, part of him was tempted. If he had the assurance he could see his mom whenever he wanted, he would do it. Still, there was a part of him that argued against it. Poseidon had been, well, he had done his best to keep Percy safe. Rhoda had helped him. Aphrodite claimed him. He still didn't understand why they had turned against Big Three kids so violently, but maybe it was all one big misunderstanding. Somehow. Selena's lips pursed. "Percy, she literally accepted the fact you were her child. How could she just accept that? That she had no memory of you, that she just had so many children that she can't even keep track of them, or that she cared so little she didn't bother to. She apologized. But she believed you," Selena whispered, "and that fact alone is a betrayal. What if I had unclaimed siblings that she forgot about, who didn't have the chance to go on a quest and get themselves claimed? She could have gotten them killed." Selena shook her head in frustration. "Besides, how are you even siding with them right now? Percy, they want you dead. Every single one. You're 12. How can any being want a child dead like that?" Her fingers were still digging into him, nails cutting into his skin. "I was there when Thalia Grace was killed. It haunts me. It haunts all of us." Percy lets his brows crease. All of them? Hadn't they been the ones to turn her away? It seemed to him the campers were just as guilty as the gods here. Selena closed her eyes, taking small, measured breaths before speaking again, lifting a hand to Percy's cheek. I don't want to see them kill you too. Well, that made two of them. Percy had seen the underworld. He was in no hurry to see Charon again until he got that pay raise of his. Besides, he worked so hard to get claimed. Percy reached up and grabbed Selena's hands. I want to stay here. I think there's something else going on. Something I can maybe fix, he said slowly. Selena's lips thinned. But don't worry, I won't say anything about you or Luke. I mean, you're keeping my secret. I'll keep yours. Selena looked at him for a long moment before sighing. Okay, she said, and looked out towards the sea. I haven't told Luke the truth about you either, she admitted. I wanted to be sure I knew what you were going to do, she said. Percy nodded. That seemed for the best. His mind was still wrapping around the idea Luke was a traitor. Honestly. If you could call him that. Selena's hands touched a bracelet on her wrist. You can change your mind, she added, letting her hands fall off of him and towards her sides. I know you think the gods have helped you here, but you might not believe that when all is said and done. Percy shrugged, putting his hands in his pockets. Maybe you'll change your mind, he said brightly. I think your mom is pretty cool. She said she would help me out with my stepfather and get my mom back from Hades. I mean, immortal parents probably aren't perfect either, right? He asked, trying to stay positive. Selena opened her mouth slightly and then snapped it back closed. Maybe, she said softly, and glanced over her shoulder again. We should head back. Tomorrow we start your Aphrodite training, she told him lightly. Percy grinned. That sounded good. Though there was a slight twist in his stomach as he thought about Luke. Would he have to lie to Annabeth when he left? Would Luke try to bring Annabeth? He didn't like that. He grabbed Selena's arm. What are you going to say happened to Luke? Sure, the gods might figure out who was responsible for the missing helm and bolt, but he didn't like the idea of lying in the meantime. Dear gods. If he didn't like lying, then the next couple of years were about to be really difficult. Selena bit her lip. Leave that to me. Uh-huh. Yeah. So, leave that to me meant that Selena came to the big house the next day saying that Luke tried to kill her with a poison scorpion. Apparently, it was to establish Selena as a trustworthy source for camp, while also letting kids know to seek out Luke if they wanted to go Team Titan. Percy wrung his hands together as he sat next to a silent Annabeth on the dock. Luke hadn't taken her with him. Part of him wondered if he had offered. Would she have accepted? Annabeth loved her mom, but if Thalia Grace had been her friend... I'm sorry, he told her quietly. Annabeth's head jerked up. It isn't true, she said simply. Percy tilted his head. Luke wouldn't hurt someone like that. It was... We'll get it sorted, she said confidently. Percy stared. Well, technically she wasn't wrong. Luke and Selena were working together. Still, what could he say? He didn't have a chance to try before she spoke again. So, she said, leaning back and studying Percy over carefully. Aphrodite, huh? You're right. Percy looked down at his shoes. How long could he play this off with the daughter of Athena at the helm? She would see right through him. Still, there was a part of him, a small part, that didn't care. He just liked being around her, talking to her, even if she was a little annoying sometimes. Yeah, he agreed and gave her a cautious look through his lashes. Can we still be friends? Annabeth tilted her head. I don't know, she said slowly, and offered a wry grin. You might be too pretty for me. Ha, as if. I understand I'm visually intimidating, he said, voice completely deadpan. However, you have to resist my beauty, and remember, I also have a personality, he told her. Annabeth grinned. Yeah, an annoying personality. Which mom did you get that from? Big talk from someone who spent an hour telling me what an egglet is, he said, and watched as she flushed. Percy tucked his foot under his leg. Thank you for coming on this quest with me, he said. Annabeth's face softened. Thanks for letting me come, she said, and collapsed on the ground. She gave him a small grin. Though you would have died without me. Nuh-uh, uh-huh, nuh-uh, uh-huh, nuh-uh, uh-huh, nuh-uh. Whatever you say, pretty boy, she said. Percy snuffed at the nickname. He wasn't going to be cool with that at all. Annabeth's smirk widened at his expression before propping herself up on her elbows. Does this mean you can help me with my hair? She asked, voice light and teasing. Percy blinked. Was there something wrong with her hair? Every time I brush it out, it gets frizzy. And you think I can help? Annabeth Chase. I'm pretty sure this is a classic case of cabin stereotyping, and I will not stand for it, he said. Annabeth snorted before standing up, brushing her hands off before offering him one. Come on, I'll race you to the dining pavilion. We can have lunch with Grover. Percy beamed as he accepted. You're on. And Percy figured if this was what the rest of his life consisted of, he had no complaints. A sort of normal had settled into his routine, or as normal as things could get for him. The letter came about 3 days later. It was in simple, cursive handwriting, with glitter and smelled of honey. He had found it sitting on top of his new bed, which was a silk green and memory foam. By far the nicest bed he had ever stayed in. Perseus, your mother has been returned home. Persephone and I ended up having a nice little chat about the whole thing, and she was astounded to learn Hades had not returned her sooner. He is being stubborn about your claiming, but don't worry. Few dare to cross me. She's back at home, and I also took a little detour myself to say hi. She's definitely different than I remember her, but no less beautiful. I've left her a gift of my own. This is where I would like you to listen very carefully, because you have an important choice to make. Heroes should always give others the chance to rescue themselves. They won't always do it, can't always do it. It is only when they can't or won't that you must decide if it is right for you to intervene. I have left your mother with some important tools. If she chooses not to use them, then it's up to you to figure out why that is and what you must do. However, I won't worry too much, darling. Your mother strikes me as a woman who can pull the metaphorical trigger when needed. I must say it is a dashing quality. Perhaps I should visit again soon. You would like more siblings, right? Hugs and kisses. A. Percy blinked a few times, trying to decipher what this mess of a letter meant. His main takeaways were his mother was alive, she's done something that Percy hoped God gave out of the picture, and the goddess was trying to have another baby with her. What a roller coaster of emotions. You good? A voice asked. Percy turned to find Selena behind him. He held up the letter. Selena wordlessly walked over and read it over. Surprise filtered over her features. She wrote to you? She asked, possibly not really digesting the rest of what was written. Huh. Wait. How was your handwriting? She asked suddenly. Percy paused. He was dyslexic and not the biggest fan of school. The answer wasn't good. Selena pursed her lips. Yeah, no. Come here. What? Why? No child of Aphrodite is going to have bad handwriting. Let me see what I'm working with. Write your name, she ordered, sliding a fluffy pen and pad of paper next to him. Percy shrugged and obliged. I'm sure it isn't that big of... He started, and then paused when Selena gasped. That bad? Selena grabbed the pad, and then looked at him, then back at the pad, then at him. We have a lot of work to do. For my handwriting? Selena's lips quirked. Oh, Percy, she said, and patted his knee. I forgot we don't know each other well. And now I'm your camp counselor, she said with a saddened sigh. You're going to hate me by the end of the summer, she told him. Percy rolled his eyes. Yeah, right. Selena literally had his life in her hands, and she didn't turn him in. He couldn't hate her if he tried. You're my friend, he said instead. Selena put a hand over her heart. You are so sweet, she said, and then grinned. And also, this, she held up the pad, is trash. We're going through calligraphy training, and before you start whining about your dyslexia, just remember we all have it. That's not an excuse for whatever this is, she said, and tossed the pad to the side. Percy paused. And what is with your bed? Have you never made a bed before? Percy turned to his bunk. Oh, well, Have you even unpacked yet? Why is your shirt there and not folded? Selina asked, and stood up. Speaking of which, why are your shoes covered in mud? She gasped, and then spluttered. You wore them inside? Do you want mud all over the cabin? I mean, is it a big... Get a broom. A what? Oh, it doesn't surprise me that you don't know what a broom is, Selina said with a long-suffering sigh. I know what a broom is, he objected, a bit indignantly. Selina rolled her eyes. Why are you being mean to me? He asked, when Selina suddenly pulled the aforementioned broom and shoved it at him. Why are you trashing my cabin? She demanded. Now, come on. You've been here for 3 days and made this place look like a second-rate hotel in Barbuda, she told him, as if Barbuda had any second-rate hotels. And we need to do something about your hair. Maybe Percy would end up hating Selina. Just a little. Oh, these are long videos. Oh my gods. Hi. This took me like literally the entire day to film because I kept on having to take breaks. I'd like record for 20 minutes, be like, oh, my voice is dead. Drink water, take a break for about an hour or two. Or I ate last break. That was great. What the hell? This is killing me. This is going to... I'm gonna keep doing it though. Like, I'm definitely gonna keep doing it. And I know there are like more books to it. How many works are in this thingy? If I were to go Son of Seafoam, open a new tab, switch. There is... Oh, I don't know how this works. 3 works. We've got Son of Seafoam, which is 196,000 words with 12 chapters. You have Descendants of Olympus, which is 431,000 words and 20 chapters. That'll kill me. Okay. And then the last one, Sons of Sea and Foam, which is 33,000 words, but it's not finished. Oh, that's disappointing. Oh no. Am I going to read it anyway? Even though it... Wait, can I see the updates thingy? Went to, don't I? Oh god. It was updated. Oh, it was actually updated February. Okay. Like February this year. Interesting. It is 5 out of 8 chapters. I don't know. Maybe, honestly, this is going to take me so long that maybe by the time that I get to this one, maybe it'll be finished. Because, oh my god. But anyway. Oh, it's Sons of Sea and Foam. Isn't that like a crossover? Yeah, Percy meets another version of himself. It's weird. I'm excited for that one. It's fun. Not gonna get there anytime soon, but like, it's fun. So, you know. Oh, why is it? I've lost my login thingy and I don't know why. Oh well. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying this because my throat is not. Anyway, I don't know, comments please, because I like seeing your comments. It's so fun to be like, oh, the person has commented, I have a notification. It's like the best thing, genuinely. If you have any thoughts throughout the video, I forgot the word for video. If you have any thoughts throughout the video, comment them. Because I have thoughts throughout the video, and I forget my thoughts by the end, because the video is so long. Okay, I've been rambling for like 3 minutes now. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. But bye.